Good, happy Tuesday evening. I'm Riley King, and welcome to the Riley King Newscast, right here on the Riley King Network. We have a lot of news to get to this Tuesday evening, so let's begin. First up, New Hampshire health officials announce fifth positive COVID-19 test in state. First round of self-monitoring, self-quarantine process completed. A fifth Granite Stater has tested positive for coronavirus disease, COVID-19, New Hampshire health officials announced today. A man in Rockingham County tested positive for the disease and is self-isolated at his home. Any household contacts are self-quarantining, officials said. Officials identified the fifth patient as a contact to a COVID-19 case in Massachusetts where health officials tested the patient and notified the New Hampshire Department of Health and Human Services of the positive results, officials said. The patient has stayed at home while sick, except to seek health care, officials said. New Hampshire DHHS officials will notify any people who had close contact with the patient while he was still infectious. Despite increased testing in our communities, the New Hampshire DHHS has not yet identified any widespread transmission in New Hampshire nor individuals who test positive without clearly identified risk factors, health officials wrote in a press release. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention have officially confirmed 2 of the state's other cases, both in Grafton County. 2 others tests positive, 1 in Grafton County and 1 in Rockingham County, were announced Sunday, but they are considered presumptive positive pending CDC confirmation. A number of people who were being monitored, including those who participated in school trips to affected areas, have completed their quarantines and show no sign of illness, officials said. Health officials said their cooperating has prevented the potential spread of COVID-19. Symptoms of COVID-19 include fever, cough, and difficult breathing. Anyone who thinks they might have the disease is encouraged to call their healthcare provider and discuss their symptoms and any recent travel. And let's now take a look at this graphic right here. COVID-19 in New Hampshire. 5 number of people in New Hampshire who have tested positive for COVID-19. 116,588 number of people worldwide who have tested positive. 0 number of deaths from COVID-19 in New Hampshire. 27 number of deaths from COVID-19 in the United States. And 4,090 number of deaths from COVID-19 worldwide. There are 3 people in Grafton that has it, and 2 in Rockingham County. And common symptoms: fever, cough, and difficult breathing. Precautions taken at town meeting day polling places aimed COVID-19 concerns. hand sanitizers, gloves available for voters at some locations. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9, Ray Brewer.
It's the Honda Dream Garage Spring Event. The perfect time to get that awesome new Honda you've been dreaming of. Like the versatile HRV. Or the award-winning CRV. Or the legendary Pilot. Whatever your dream may be. Yeah! Where'd that dream come from? It's weird. Get to the Honda Dream Garage Spring Event for an amazing...
In Londonderry, before the polls opened, a worker was spraying sanitizer, part of the effort to make sure people were safe as they head to the polls. Inside the polls, some of the workers are wearing gloves, just part of the steps town officials are taking out of concerns over the coronavirus.
We've got hand sanitizers, gloves. We sent out a notice people could wear gloves and bring their own pens if they want.
Still, most voters didn't seem to be worried about the virus.
Right now, I'm not overly concerned about that. I think it's our duty to do our part and vote, so I'm happy to do it, yeah.
It's not as simple as just a common cold, but we can't panic about things.
It's just all common sense stuff, really. We do that with the flu every year, so it should be no different.
In Londonderry, as in many polling places around the state, hand sanitizer is available.
I used it because you just never know. There was a man sneezing a couple booths down from me, so I thought, well, I don't want to take the risk of getting something.
At a polling place in Salem, turnout was also light. This despite the fact that the moderator thought a couple of bond issues would bring people out to vote.
Have a great day.
On the check-in tables, hand sanitizer and sanitizing wipes were available, and occasionally some of the poll workers were using them. And while gloves were also available in Salem, unlike in Londonderry, they weren't in use. Now, while most of the poll workers and the voters we talked to didn't seem overly concerned about the coronavirus, here in Salem, the poll workers are now wearing those gloves. And we did have one voter, come by and give us this hand sanitizer. She works for a cleaning company. She said it was just in case. Reporting live in Salem, Ray Brewer, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. And many towns in New Hampshire are doing New Hampshire Town Meeting Day today. And here at the Riley King Network, we are focusing on the wonderful town that we live in do our broadcast in Deerfield, New Hampshire. So let's see what the major issues are in Deerfield, New Hampshire. And for Deerfield, New Hampshire, issue number 1, town budget, and issue number 2, purchase of fire department command vehicle. Those are the 2 top issues that are big in Deerfield, New Hampshire. Results for Super Tuesday, number 2, 2020. Presidential candidates compete in Idaho, Michigan, Mississippi, Missouri, North Dakota, and Washington today for Super Tuesday, number 2. Urine ashes ashore on Hampton Beach. Urine says grandma on it, officials say. Take a look at this photo right here. These were washed ashore on Hampton Beach. It says grandma on it. A group of people found an urine Tuesday morning that washed up on Hampton Beach. The urine said grandma on it. It's not known if there were ashes inside, a New Hampshire State Parks official said. The urine is now in possession of New Hampshire State Police and the New Hampshire Medical Examiner's Office. Officials with both agencies will work to see if they can find who the urine belongs to. No beach activities were affected, officials said. And now let's take a look at your U.S. stock market and see how your U.S. stock market closed for this Tuesday evening. And here's a look at that U.S. stock market for all of you for this Tuesday evening. Dow rallies more than 1,100 points in a wild session. Holds losses from Monday's sell-off. Stocks rose sharply in wild trading on Tuesday as investors weighed the perspective of financial simulation to curb slower economic growth stemming from the coronavirus outbreak. More states of emergency in U.S. as cases climb in New York. Let's take a listen to that video from ABC News.
Start with the coronavirus emergency. Overnight, the number of cases has risen to more than 114,000 around the world. More than 4,000 people have died.
But an encouraging number. So far, more than 64,000 of those cases are reported to have recovered.
This as we're seeing unprecedented steps being taken to control the outbreak. All eyes are on Italy this morning, where the government has extended its lockdown to the entire country, impacting some 60 million people.
Our team is covering all the angles of this story. The Surgeon General standing by, Dr. Jen Ashton, is going to bring us an important demonstration. And we begin here in New York. The number of cases rising here, one of the biggest outbreaks in the nation. Whit Johnson is at LaGuardia Airport with the latest. Good morning, Whit.
George, good morning to you. The head of Port Authority becomes New York State's first public official to test positive for the coronavirus. He's the man who oversees the buses, the trains, and major airports in this area. This as New York State and others across the country prepare for a spike in new cases. This morning, with the number of cases climbing in hard-hit New York, the mayor suggesting dramatic steps to keep the elderly safe.
For example, you don't want to go see your grandchildren if they happen to be sick, even with a common cold. You just don't want to do it.
The head of the agency that runs New York's transportation hubs now testing positive. COVID-19 now reaching a rarely reported demographic. A 7-year-old girl diagnosed in the Bronx, but said to be doing well. So far, children have accounted for just over 2% of confirmed cases worldwide. The spread leading dozens of schools and colleges, including Amherst, San Francisco State, and Ohio State University, one of the largest in the country, to suspend in-person classes to minimize exposure, forcing educators and parents to figure out how to best teach students from their homes. Overnight, we spoke to a family in Fulton, Georgia, whose 3 children were sent home indefinitely after a teacher tested positive.
We're just all being, very careful and cautious of who they're hanging out with. But at this point, I don't think that we're, intending on everybody just staying at home.
Across the country, at least 750 cases, 14 states making emergency declarations, including Washington State, reporting infections in at least 3 different nursing homes. The Life Care facility, the deadly epicenter of the outbreak in the U.S., with at least 20 fatalities. 31 of the 35 residents remaining at the facility now testing positive, with 3 more coming back inconclusive, meaning only 1 person living there has tested negative for the virus. A spokesperson for the home sharing his frustrations over the lack of resources.
We still do not have specific kits to test our staff.
The Trump administration responding to claims of a testing shortage.
Over 1 million tests have been distributed before the end of this week, another 4 million.
And in an unprecedented move, Major League Baseball, the MLS, NBA, and NHL all releasing a joint statement banning the media from entering locker rooms in an effort to help limit the spread of the virus. And we are also seeing a slew of major concerts reportedly postponed, from Mariah Carey to Pearl Jam to Madonna. Michael?
Definitely has affected so much, Whit. Thank you.
Well, hey there.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. And that does it for this evening edition of the Riley King Newscast, right here on the Riley King Network. I hope you all have a great rest of your Tuesday evening, and I'll see you back here tomorrow for another newscast. Good night and bye, everyone.